this has been my most successful reading month in the terms of quantity. I read the most this month that I have read all year. As far as quality goes, possibly. I did have 2 5-star reads, so it did go really well. And I know it's not about quantity, it's about quality. So even if you read 1 book a year and you enjoy it, that's successful. It just so happened that it went that way because I was part of the Dungeon and Book Dragons Readathon. So I was really locked in when it came to reading books because every book that I read gained points for team fighters. And because I was co-hosting a team for this readathon, I kind of felt the pressure was on to really spearhead my team. Now, that being said, there were other people on team fighters that read way more books than I did. But for me, I read 10.5 books this month. That's crazy because I usually average maybe 5, 6 at the most, and I'm okay with that. I don't think that's really gonna change too much, but I think what helped me is that I've progressively been upping my audiobook listening speed, and I've gotten to the point where I'm at 2 times speed feels comfortable for me. Now that I've done that, when I try to listen to a book at 1 time speed, it literally feels like I'm listening to the sloth from Zootopia. So this is actually pretty exciting for me because now I feel like I can get through books twice as fast as I used to, which means I can get through more books that I want to read in a month. And me being that person that just wishes they can read every book and feels like there's so many books in so little time, which, come on, that's everybody, right? Most of us. I mean, if you're here, it's probably you too. Something that I really enjoyed was that Ivy created these character sheets for us to fill out so that we really felt like we were playing Dungeons and Dragons. So along the way, I was kind of updating it and filling it out as my character leveled up. Now, for each location that we went to, that was a different main quest prompt. And then there was also side quests that we could read as well, and those were optional, but they do get you extra points. The place where it all started was the village, and the main quest prompt for that was: the villagers gather for the summoning at the village square, a call to begin your first journey. For your first main quest, read a book that starts a series or opens up a new world. So I took this opportunity to read The Hunger Games. Crazy enough, but I had never read The Hunger Games before. I knew that I was gonna love it because how could you not love it? Everybody loves it. And of course I read it and it was 5 stars. And I immediately wanted to pick up the next book and just blow through the entire series. Instead, I jumped into doing a side quest, The Scholar's Scrolls. Read a book by an author you've never read before. So for this one, I chose The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. I think that's how you say it. I don't know. So this book I really wanted to sneak in to the readathon because I was reading it for another vlog that I'm working on. And it ended up working out perfectly because it fit the side quest that was for the village. The premise of it is that a woman is put into a mental institution because she stops speaking and she is convicted of killing her husband. They just don't know why. And so the perspective of the book is actually from her psychologist, I want to say. We also do get some of her perspective through her diary entries. And I will say it's a very interesting story. I didn't know where it was going at all, and I did not expect the ending. So I very much had a fun time reading it. There was a couple of unexplained, maybe you could say plot hole things or whatever, or just things that didn't make sense, but I thought it was really good still, and it didn't deter my enjoyment of the book. And I do think this was the debut novel of this author. I want to say when this book came out, it was super popular, so good for them. You'll also see on my little digital spreads that we do have some random encounters and monster encounters that we did throughout the readathon. Those were super fun. If you're interested in this readathon, Ivy did say that she was going to do it again next year in November, so keep your eyes peeled for that and make sure to join because it was so much fun. She put so much work into it. There was a million different moving parts, but it went together so smoothly. I mean, especially for a first year readathon, wow, I'm excited. She even said that There's probably going to be merch for next year, so I'm just pumped. On to main quest 2, Into the Dark Forest. Venture beyond the safety of the village and lose yourself among ancient trees where every step leads deeper into mystery and discovery. Read a book that feels magical or otherworldly. Okay, this one, I might have stretched it a little bit, but I chose The Buffalo Hunter. And for me, I felt like this book was definitely otherworldly because this book involves vampires. And to me, that's definitely magical and otherworldly, right? I mean, I don't know about magical, but definitely like otherworldly. Whatever. That's what I picked. This was my first book that I've ever read by Stephen Graham Jones, and I loved it. I gave it a 4 stars, and I was teetering on the verge of, should this be a 5-star read? But I stuck with 4 stars because there was aspects of it that I did find a little bit boring. It kind of was slow in parts, but because the subject matter was so profound and I loved the whole concept and like the message behind it, I had to at least give it 4 stars. But anyways, I did vote on it for Goodreads Choice Awards fan favorite horror book of 2025, and by the time this video goes out, we will see if it won or not. But, fingers crossed that it did win because I do think it's such a good book and everybody should read it. The vampires in his story are just not your typical vampires, and I liked that. I liked that it was a little bit different take. They felt more primal and animalistic, and I thought that was really fascinating. And to me, it felt like a Native American version of Interview with the Vampire. So the part of the book that makes it so impactful is the subject matter has to do with the Native American people and how these white colonizers kind of came in and slaughtered their people and took over their land. It's just a big commentary on that. And so that's why I find it to be so important, and especially the dichotomy between the Native American vampire and the white pastor engaging in this exchange throughout the entire book. And we get those two perspectives, and then the ending, which I did not expect. Like, I didn't see it coming. Maybe it was obvious, but I definitely, when it happened, I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, it was great. It was really, really good. So yeah, I definitely highly recommend this book. Powerful book. I was so happy to have read it during November, which was Native American Heritage Month. That's something I want to work on in the future, is kind of getting more diverse reads into my rotation. Side quest number 3, The Lantern Bearer. Now this was to read a hyped or 5-star prediction, and now I can talk about Wake Up and Open Your Eyes by Clay McLeod Chapman. And I still don't know if I'm saying his name right, but we're just gonna go with that. So this book was crazy. This was definitely a 4-star read for me. It was super weird. I kind of started off wanting to DNF this book, but I pushed through. I wanted to finish it out because I really was so curious to see where this book was going. I liked the premise. The premise made me feel like I need to read this right now, because this is a commentary on society today. And if that's too much for you, I totally get it. But because this is a horror book and it's so exaggerated and far-fetched, I was able to read it without feeling too icky about, our current situation. This is about family getting brainwashed by fax news, only the facts. FAX. So I thought that was really funny. It's basically about how the right-wing agenda is brainwashing people and turning them into monsters. You can only imagine, but it is so much crazier than you will ever expect. Like, the stuff that goes on in this book is wild. And the more I read it, I just started to love it so much more and more. It was just, the weirder it got, the more I was invested. I was like, this is crazy. And I thought it was so interesting because it uses like social media and how, they're looking at these screens and this technology that is feeding into their brains and just giving them these ideas where they start to just believe this. It's leading up to this thing called the reawakening. Yes, okay, the Great Reawakening. So it's this buildup to this big day that's going to happen. And it goes through each member of the family and how it's affecting each one of them and how they're gradually changing over the course of the book and getting more and more brainwashed and slowly like becoming turning into these monsters. And by the time the Great Reawakening happens, it's like all hell breaks loose. It felt cathartic. Like, it just felt right to read in November, with Thanksgiving and family holidays and things coming up. Yeah, it just felt right. For Main Quest 3, we moved into the Hall of Echoes. Beneath the earth lies a forgotten crypt where whispers of the past refuse to rest. Read a book with a dark setting, atmosphere, or that feels mysterious and foreboding. For Main Quest 3, I ended up reading Mexican Gothic by Silvia Moreno Garcia, and this ended up being my favorite book of the entire month. I fell in love with this book from beginning to end. I just was like giddy reading it the whole time. I think I was just really excited because I love anything set in the 1950s. I was obsessed that it was set in Mexico. I loved that our main character was a Mexican woman. I really do love this character. She was just I just saw a lot of myself in her. She was very outspoken. She didn't take any crap from anyone. She just stood up for herself. She wanted to be free and independent, and I just loved that about her so much. She was just feisty. I loved her. Reading this book made me realize I think I really like Gothic horror. Now, I still have to test that theory by reading more Gothic books and seeing if it's not just that I loved this book in particular, but I think I like that vibe of it's kind of slow moving and it was just kind of very atmospheric. It just felt very like Hill House, right? Like I felt like I was watching The Haunting, creepy and dark and kind of slow paced. It just felt moody and also a little bit romantic. There's a romantic element to it, but it wasn't about that. And I kind of liked that it was just like a taste of that, a hint, this like charm or this like seductiveness, but it wasn't a full-on romance, right? I would reread this, and I don't often say that about a book because I'm not a rereader, but I would definitely at some point want to reread this book. Ma'am. Now, the next two books I read was because of the Goodreads Choice Awards, and I was trying to get through some of those horror nominations, so I don't actually own the physical copies of the next two. I listened to these as audiobooks, and the first one was Side Quest number 2, which was Down the Dimly Lit Corridor, which was to read a book with a dark cover or an ominous title. So for this one, I chose The Haunting of Paynes Hollow by Kelly Armstrong. I read the synopsis on the Goodreads nomination list for the horror books, and I was so intrigued. I thought it was going to be so interesting, the one I was most excited to read, so I chose it first. And it was a pretty big letdown. So this was kind of like a retelling or reimagining or influenced by The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. But I was never invested in the characters. I never had any kind of emotional attachment. I never cared about any of the characters in the story. I thought it was just bland the entire time. Like, I thought it was interesting at first because the premise is that the main character is getting this inheritance from her grandfather, and the only way for her to receive it, she has to live in this lake house for a month. And there's definitely a lot of like family trauma and family history. She's seeing things in the side of her eye, and she's seeing something in the lake. And is that a person? Is that her family pulling tricks on her? Is that like creatures from the lake? Is it the headless horseman? Like, what's going on? And the whole time you're kind of in this mystery of like what's happening here at this like lake house. And I just didn't care. And that's all I really have to say about it. It just really wasn't anything special. I honestly think I rated it like 2 stars because it was that uninteresting to me. After that one, though, I did move on to side quest number 5, which was Reflections in the Stone. Read a book where a character confronts their past, identity, or destiny. For that one, I chose You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White, a trans male author who wrote about a trans male main character, who the main character is also mute and also has autism. It is about a transgender male who ends up getting pregnant and does not want to be pregnant, but is being forced to keep the baby and have the baby because they are part of this cult led by this alien entity, which is like this mound of worms and flies, and that is like the cult leader, and they call it the Hive. Weird. Okay, super weird. Like, I did not understand that element of the book at all, but then I realized by the end of it that was not the point. So the point is not going to be finding out what's up with the worms or why the cult is there or what the hive is or what they want or why they want him to have the baby. It's not about that. It's about this man's experience. The horror of not having bodily autonomy and being forced to be pregnant. He sees this baby inside of him as like a parasite that he does not want. All of that is giving me chills because I'm so frightened, because that is a true horror, when the horror is actually something that people experience in everyday life, like being forced to be pregnant and have a baby against their will. That's horrifying. That's real horror. In the book, it describes him as not being incapable of speech, but choosing to not speak because at some point he just felt like there was no point. Like him speaking didn't change anything. It didn't matter. So he just one day stopped speaking. Wow. That has created a disability for this character. And so you really get a lot of disability rep, you get queer representation, and you get a whole commentary on basically Roe versus Wade. And so this book was powerful. It was definitely one of my favorite reads of the month. I gave it 4 stars. The reason why I didn't give it a full 5 is because the whole element with the hive really threw me for a loop and I was very much confused for a good portion of the book. But because of that overarching plot of the pregnancy, that kept me hooked the entire way. So then we moved on to Main Quest 4, and this took place in the Inferno Fortress. Flames roar and shadows dance within obsidian walls. Read a book with intense stakes and or high tension. Now I used this opportunity to read When the Wolf Comes Home by Nat Cassidy. This was the first book that I've ever read by Nat Cassidy, and it did not disappoint. It was like a chase story the entire way. I didn't know what to expect besides I knew there was a wolf, so I assumed it was going to be like a werewolf. It very much gave daddy issues, and you know, the dad is the one who changes into the wolf, and you get that right from the synopsis. Besides just that, there is some twisty elements of this book that I did not expect. I very much anticipated this to be like, oh, the child sees his dad as a monster because he's probably abusive, so he sees him as this wolf that's chasing him throughout the story. But there's more to it. It's so deep at the end. And I would say this book is about fear and how we as human beings deal with fear. I did give this book 4 stars, even though it was super exciting and I loved the message. By the end of it, I felt like throughout the journey of the book, it was fun and exciting, but I never felt like emotionally invested to the characters until that very, very end, especially after I read the afterword of the author's notes. Because something I did here was you have to read Nat Cassidy's author's notes because it gives you so much more insight into why he wrote the book. And so I feel like I liked the book more because I read the afterword. The side quest for this one that I attempted to read was number 8, The Prowling Emberborn Hound. Read a book where someone is being hunted and or haunted. So for this one, I was going to read The Possession of Alba Diaz by Isabel Cañas, and honestly, I got like 60% of the way into this book, but I was listening to it through audiobook, and it was one of those situations where I was kind of just like listening to it as background noise and not truly paying attention. So because of that, I didn't want to just complete the book for the sake of completing it and then really not knowing what it was even about, because I could feel myself just not being invested. I wasn't interested, and it's not because the subject matter wasn't good or the writing wasn't good. I just wasn't in the mood for it. And it was one of those things where I had to step back and say, you know what, this might be a good book at a different time, so I'm going to do myself a favor and just give it a soft DNF. And I think sometimes it's hard for me to get invested in a historical fiction because you really have to be in the mood for that kind of pace or that kind of setting or that kind of language, and I just really wasn't there. Oh, she has to get married into this family for financial stability, or so she's kind of betrothed to this one man, but then she kind of has her eye on this other man. I think it's his cousin. He's like a criminal. It's very much a romance, even though it's a horror, but it's like a romantic horror, so I think the romance element plays a big part in the story. It was just too slow for me, where I wasn't getting enough horror. It wasn't gripping me. You know, she goes into the mines and then you're like, nobody's supposed to go in there because they're dangerous or haunted or something. And obviously by the name of the book, she gets possessed. That's as much as I know. I want to go back and try to reread this at a later time because I feel like once I actually start paying attention and get through the book in the right mindset, I feel like this is going to be at least a good 4-star read. 3.5, maybe 4. That's my prediction because that's kind of what it was feeling like. Now after that, we had Main Quest 5, which was the Starlit Market. And that was to venture into the starlit market where celestial traders peddle wonders and whispered secrets. Choose your purchase wisely, for not all magic comes without a price. Read a book where a shop, store, or market plays a crucial role in the story. Okay, here it is. So it is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. And this is a Japanese novel translated into English, written in 2019, I believe. It was a cute little book about a coffee shop that you can time travel in. There are so many rules about the time traveling that takes place, so not a lot of people take advantage of it because there's so many ridiculous rules. It's kind of like, what's the point? Now, I'm not going to remember every single rule, but I'll kind of give you like the gist of it. So you can go back in time, but you have to return before your cup of coffee gets cold. So that's not very long. And then when you do go back in time, you can only go back in time to this coffee shop. You also can't get out of your chair. You can also only talk to people that are in the coffee shop. And anything you do when you're back in time does not change the present. This is a series of multiple connected stories of different people that do choose to take advantage and go back in time and how that affects their lives back in the present day. I just thought this was so cozy and so perfect for this prompt. I had been meaning to get around to this, but it just never felt like I was in the mood for it or was never the right time. I really liked it. I think I gave it around 3.5 stars, something like that, because it was a fun, cozy read. I did feel like it was very predictable and it was very emotional, but it didn't make me feel emotional, if that makes sense. From the back of it, it looks like there's at least like 4 other books that he has out that I'm assuming all take place in the same coffee shop, maybe? Tales from the Cafe, Before Your Memory Fades, Before We Say Goodbye, and Before We Forget Kindness. These are really cute. I would read another one in the series. I think they're very interesting. Nothing that blew me away or anything, but I think it's a very interesting concept. Time travel is another one of those tricky ones, you know, because he put all these rules and stipulations on it, you know, he didn't have to deal with like the logistics about time travel or, you know, the butterfly effect. The last quest in the readathon was Main Quest 6. You stand before the gates of the lair of Tiamat, the 5-headed queen of chaos herself. Her presence radiates pure destruction, and her wrath threatens to consume all realms. Only the bravest may face her and emerge with their souls and their stories intact. Read a book featuring a powerful villain, monster, or force of destruction. Almost any horror book would have satisfied that quest for me. But I will say, by the time the end of the readathon came around, I was so burnt out by having read so many books. And also co-hosting is a lot of work. I feel like the behind the scenes of a readathon is a little bit crazy, but it was so much fun. But that being said, I had to take a pass for Main Quest 6, and I did end up using one of my ability cards that allowed me to kind of skip that quest. But I did choose to read a book for Tiamat's Lair. I just chose to do a side quest instead. The Redhead's Fury. Read a book where emotions run hot between characters. For this one, I chose the book Desperate Measures by Katie Robert. And I would have had the physical book to show you, but I lent it to my best friend because I told her, you have to read this and tell me what you think. Because after reading it, I definitely wanted to rate this book 5 stars, and then I kind of thought about it and I was like, okay, calm down, 4.5. But I loved it, and it was just, that's a total rating on vibes alone, okay? It wasn't because this was like the best writing ever. It's a smutty book, spice and kink, and for what it was, 5 stars. As a book overall, maybe not that much. I just very much enjoyed my time, okay? It was a very fun read. I felt fully invested the entire time, not because the plot was plotting, because what plot? But I was okay with that because I knew what this was going in. I knew what the book was. I knew why I was reading it. I knew what it was supposed to be about. So for that alone, it delivered. For a spicy dark romance, it was exactly what I wanted. I feel like I just want to continue reading the entire series. Like, I'm ready to pick up book 2 right now. I literally was like, let me go to Katie Roberts' backlist and see what else she's written, because girl, I'm a fan. If you've seen my videos like back in the day, like you've been here from day one, you will know that this was the book I got in my blind date with a book package from Books with Desh. I feel like a lot of the times those blind date with a books are such a hit or miss, because I feel like you're just paying a lot of money, like more money you'd be paying if you just went out and bought the book yourself, because you're paying for the experience, right? And sometimes, you know, they do include, like she included like a bunch of extra stickers, tea, and like a pen and annotation, sticky notes and things like that. So, I mean, I did get a bunch of other stuff, but really you're paying for the experience of opening this like present for yourself. Just like any present, you know, you're either gonna love it or hate it or just be whatever about it. Thankfully, I loved it. This was a good one. This was a hit. I don't think I will be continuing buying any kind of blind date with the books because I'm too picky, I think. I don't want to open another surprise purchase and then be disappointed, because I have bought blind date with the books in the past, like years and years ago. The idea is so fun, but then I got these books that I was like, I don't think I'm ever gonna read this. So at the end of the day, I could do without. I'll just buy my own books and wrap them myself and then surprise myself when I open them, because I haven't picked them up in like a year and now it's a surprise. But anyways, this is a reimagining or retelling of Aladdin and Jasmine and Jafar. And so the main male character is Jafar because it is a villain story. So this is the Wicked Villains series. The main character is basically Princess Jasmine, but her name in the book is Yasmina. I will say, for being a villain story, Jafar was not a villain. I mean, they may be working in this kind of criminal underworld or whatever, but again, there's not really a plot, so there's not really much story to kind of go on. So I don't even know what the business is or what the I don't know anything, okay? It just kind of starts off as like he kills her father in the very beginning and kind of like takes her as a captive, but I mean takes her, she pretty much goes willingly. Like there's many chances for her to say, you know, she's not down for whatever's happening, and she's just like, oh no, please don't. It's all about the consensual non-consent in this book. Like that's the kink here. He's in no way the villain at all. He's the good guy. They basically made the Aladdin character, Ali, as the villain, but even he's not very villainous, to be honest. I mean, there's just not a lot of plot, but it was so good. Like, I know I'm really not selling it. I guess it's one of those things where if those are your kinks or those are your interests, then you'll really like this book. It's a fun time. So yeah, now I'm really hot. So this was fun. I hope you enjoyed hearing about all the books that I read in November. I hope you're excited about the Dungeon and Book Dragons readathon for next year. It was super fun. I definitely want you to join next year, so make sure to come back, like and subscribe to these videos so that you can keep up to date with what's going on in the book community and what I'm getting involved in and what's coming up next. I'm so excited. I can't believe it's already the end of the year. Oh my gosh, where did the time go? It's been so much fun being a part of the book community for like almost a full year. We'll get into talking about more of these things with like stats and updates and year-long wrap-ups and things like that, and like how my first year in the book community went. We'll talk about all these things in another video. December is a good month. I love December. The holidays, my birthday, it's getting cooler. I get to wear onesies and cozy things. Thanks for hanging out. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.